Hello everyone, it's old Guardian here, and in this video I'm going to tell you everything you need to know to get started with Warcraft Rumble in 2024. If you have decided to pick up Warcraft Rumble in 2024, I think you have made a good decision. Rumble is now a much better and much more mature game than it was when it launched in November 2023. First of all, the free-to-play income in the game is around 50% higher now than it was at launch, so the overall progression curve is just much smoother. It's much more fun to play, much more fun to progress even as free-to-play. There's also a lot more content, including events and co-op content. Blizzard made a big deal about co-op content at BlizzCon in November 2023, but it was not until May 2024 that co-op content actually launched and you can play together with another player in actually quite difficult PvE challenges in sieges and in raids. The game is also finally relatively bug-free. This has spent like first 4 months just fixing bugs after releasing Rumble. For Rumble's original launch at BlizzCon that definitely felt rushed, but now Rumble is the game that it was supposed to be and it's a good time to jump in. When you start a new Rumble account, you start progressing through the PvE campaign, and progression through that PvE campaign is going to unlock all the other game modes for you. So you get sigils when you complete campaign missions, and as you gain more sigils, more game modes are unlocked. And most of those game modes are really super important, because there's, for example, at 22 sigils, there's Arclight Surges, which is your main source of repeatable coins that you get weekly. Then at 30 there's dungeons, another thing that you really want to do weekly to improve all of your armies. And at 40 there's events, and events are another major source of coins and XP and mini stars and all sorts of things. So you want to unlock much of this content and start doing it as soon as possible. Typically the progression goes something like you go through the campaign, then you maybe hit a bit of a wall, but you have unlocked some other stuff and then you can do some other things and you get more resources from those and then you can progress more through the campaign again and so on and so forth. And as you start the game, one of the first choices that you make is your first leader. You're going to be offered 3 random leaders and you get to pick one. And this is, well, it's a fairly important choice in that picking up an easy and strong leader can really help you progress through the campaign. But on the other hand, all of the leaders are actually pretty good once you know how to play them and once you have the proper minis to support them. It's just that some leaders need more minis or more game knowledge in order to shine, whereas others are just easier to play. So for the first pick, this is roughly how I would rate the leaders, judging just by how easy and powerful they are to play, so that how good are they as your first possible leader. So Baron Rivendare, Tyrion Fordring, Grommash Hellscream, very straightforward, very powerful leaders that are great to pick right at the start. And General Drakizat, Cairn Bloodhoof, Old Murkai Imperators, and similarly quite powerful, a little bit weaker than the first leaders, but still very strong. And then we get into more weaker leaders, and then we get into very situational leaders, and tier F Charga. Charga is actually one of the strongest leaders, I think, overall in the game. Charga just completely changes the way you play the game, so it's really difficult to play when you're just starting out. So pick a strong, pretty easy, pretty sturdy, tanky type of leader at the start, and you will have an easier time progressing. But no matter what you pick, actually stuff like Jaina is one of the strongest leaders overall, but you just might not have the proper support or the proper skills to support Jaina right at the start, so might not be ideal for the first pick. And pretty soon the game also introduces you to the grid, and grid is the main way that you're going to get minis. So on the grid you're offered random minis to buy, and when you buy a mini from the grid, then all the minis on the horizontal and the vertical row from that mini are going to be reset and new minis will appear there. When you buy minis from the grid you get more options, and also every day at midnight the bottom row is going to fall off and minis over there are going to be replaced. All the minis can be offered at any time, but leaders are only offered when it's their faction week. Each week is dedicated to a single faction, and then that rotates. So at the start you want to buy as many different minis as you can. Just try to get one copy of all the minis, then you will be buying multiple copies of them later in order to upgrade them. But first you try to aim for getting all the minis, so that you will have all the different minis available to you. Then you're going to try to start upgrading them all to uncommon, and then you start to upgrade the more useful ones to rare. You can also upgrade some useful ones to rare a little bit earlier if you get the opportunity, but the main idea is to improve your collection by getting all minis, all to uncommon, and then useful ones further than that. And you also want to try to get one leader from each family as soon as possible, because there are various challenges in the game that require you to have leaders from each family, and because leaders are only offered on alternative weeks, then that means that you might need to wait multiple weeks to get the right kind of leader. So when you get leader choices as you progress, when you get leaders offered in the grid as you progress, try to pick up so that you will have at least one leader from each family as soon as possible. They also sometimes offer direct upgrades on the grid. They can be green for uncommon, blue for rare, purple for epic, and generally those upgrades are a really good deal if you don't have that rarity of that mini yet, because it skips all the other upgrade costs and gives you directly that rarity level of a mini, and more rare minis are more powerful. One of the main reasons why you want to get a wide collection is collection level. Whenever you get new minis, whenever you level up minis, and whenever you upgrade the rarity of your minis, you gain points for collection level. And the higher collection level, it gives you XP bonuses for everything. Every quest gives you more XP, every tome gives you more XP. It's just so much more XP from everywhere, so you really want to improve your collection level, and by far the quickest way to do that is to get all the minis and get them all to uncommon. It takes more time to start getting those rares, but getting a wide collection of uncommon minis gets your collection level to a good way, and then that will just give you so much more XP for the minis all the time. While there are some meta minis that people just like to use and keep using and that are quite powerful, almost all the minis in this game have some uses, and the starter set of minis that you get, Griffin Rider, Darkspear Troll, Null Brute, Chain Lightning and Safe Pilot, is actually not a bad set of minis at all. Griffin Rider sees play in PvP, Darkspear Troll sees a bunch of play in PvE, Safe Pilot sees play pretty much all over the place, which means that you actually get some really strong minis right at the start. And this team overall, it's fairly well rounded. It could use a better tank. The Null is not a great tank, and it could use some area damage like a Pyromancer for example. But overall, this is not a bad team at all to start with. That said, there are some minis that you want to pick up early if at all possible, and there are three in particular that are my favorites, which are the Quillbore, which is a cheap unbound tank, so that you can distract your enemies and turn them around and have your damage dealers then come in. And then Harpies, which is a very high damage flying unit that is super fragile, so typically you play Quillbore on the other side of the enemy turns around, Harpies can come in and hit it in the back. And Pyromancer, which is a wonderful AoE unit, just shooting really big fireballs all over the place. So those tend to be the minis that I really like to get to my armies early on. Some people really love Huntress, a very strong cleave unit. Then there's units like Defias Bandits, which is a cheap 1 gold unit that stuns enemies, just super flexible, super useful all over the place. And then Gargoyle and Meatwagon, which can be really strong against some of the bosses and really strong against towers. So you want to get all the minis, but you do want to prioritize a little bit if at all possible, so that you pick up some of the strongest minis and you can build an even stronger army. For example, an army like this, you first want to try to build a fairly balanced army, so pay attention to the average cost. Here the average cost is 2.9, you want it to hover around that 3 mark somewhere. If it's too expensive, then you just can't cycle, you can't get your minis out there, you play very slowly. But if it's also too cheap, then you lack a little bit of power, a little bit of punch, so that you will find it hard to destroy the enemies. Typically, you want 1 or 2 unbound units to react to things. Unbound units can be placed anywhere in the map. So for example, in this army there's a Quillbore, which is an unbound tank, and then there's the Safe Pilot, which is an unbound damage dealer, so I have a little bit of flexibility to act around the map. You want some area of effect damage. Safe Pilot provides some of that in here, and also Pyromancer provides some of that. And then you want something that's really heavy hitting, something that deals a bunch of damage. Harpies deal a lot of damage in this one, and also Prowler. Prowler is a curious tank. It's kind of a DPS unit, although it's a tank, so it's a bit of a hybrid between the two. Lovely unit, I do like that a lot. And you want a good mix of flyers and ground units, typically. So that sort of balanced army can get you through the regular campaign and through some of the heroics. But as you get into some of the other heroics, you will start to want to build specific armies against the specific encounters, because trying to counter the boss army and the boss abilities, then you just need to tweak stuff around a bunch. But overall, when you get started, try to build just a generic, balanced army, and that will take you far. Like most free-to-play games, Warcraft Rumble also tries to get you to spend money, and spending money on the game is not a bad idea, although you can also play it completely as free-to-play. You're being offered a bunch of these time-limited bundles at regular intervals at the start, and some of them are actually quite good. Typically the ones that say mythic value or legendary value can be good, but mainly evaluate them based on the coins that you get. Coins are still by far the most flexible thing that you can get, because coins mean that you can do anything with them. And also mini stars that you would want to get anyway. So 90 coins for a troop, 120 coins for leaders. That can be helpful in evaluating these. Because many of these bundles also offer you XP tomes. The XP tomes are typically bad early on because you don't have a lot of collection level, so you get very low amounts of XP from those tomes. As you get more collection level, then the value of the tomes increases. By far the best thing that you can buy in Warcraft Rumble is the Arclight Booster. It's a permanent upgrade to your account and it's offered when you reach 12 sigils. And it has a bank that banks all of this extra gold because it's going to give you a 50% gold boost and a 20% XP boost. This bank stores all the gold from campaign, heroic campaign and events, but it does not store the gold that you get from Arclight Surges and PvP. So note that you will miss out on some of the coins if you don't pick this up early. The XP gain itself is of more minor importance because the XP requirements rise exponentially, so 20% XP gain is not that significant. But the coins gain is very, very significant. It's more than 30,000 coins per year. So this would be by far the best thing that you can buy if you're unsure whether you want to invest a lot or not. And all the game modes are unlocked as you progress through the campaign. The first one to unlock is actually PvP, which is unlocked already at 8 sigils. Which kind of doesn't make much sense because you're not very ready for PvP at that point. I do recommend getting further in the campaign before you start doing really a lot of PvP. And also you want to get those Arclight Surges, the dungeons, you want to get those events, because all of those are things that typically rotate or happen on a weekly basis, and you want to get them open as soon as possible so that you can start doing them instead of focusing on PvP. Especially so because to truly succeed in PvP, you need talents. Without talents, PvP against humans is going to be quite hopeless, and you also need levels. The PvP levels are a little bit lower than PvE levels. You get them by dividing PvE level by 3 and rounding it up. So for example, if someone has level 13 minis in PvE, then they are level 5 in PvP. But you can think that, okay, if I'm playing with level 3 minis in PvP and someone comes in with level 5 minis or level 7 minis, yeah, you're not going to have much of a chance. You will meet a bunch of bots early on. Your first 20 games are going to be against bots. But as you start meeting human opponents, then you will need some talents and levels to succeed in PvP. The next thing that's going to be unlocked is guilds, which are unlocked at 10 sigils. And guilds offer many rewards. There's a seasonal chest on guilds that guilds get progress on and you get rewards from that. Then some of the events are guild based. All of the co-op game modes in the game are currently guild based. So you really want a guild at latest when you reach 40 sigils. It's easy to switch guilds, there are no penalties whatsoever, so you can join pretty much any guild early on and then you can switch later. The game starts to teach you about rarity and talents at 18 and 20 sigils, when you get an uncommon upgrade for your first leader and then you get a free talent for it. And talents make minis much more powerful, but note, at uncommon you have unlocked one talent slot and you cannot switch. Once you buy a talent for the talent slot, the game is going to offer you the talents. Eventually, they're going to offer all the options to you. But once you commit by buying a talent, then you're locked into that purchase. And until you open another talent slot at rare, you won't be able to change. So you could be stuck with the talent for weeks. So it makes good sense to check out, for example, my talent video to see what talents are good for the minis so that you don't end up with a bad talent and being unable to switch for a long time. One of the most important game modes that's going to unlock is Arclight Surges, which unlocks at 22 sigils. They are your main repeatable source for coins, and coins are the way you buy minis, and where you buy talents, and where you buy everything. You get 800 coins per week, or 1200 if you have bought the booster. There's new searches 4 times a week, on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday and Sunday. Each of them lasts for 3 days, so they overlap a little bit. You don't have to play every day, but you do need to play within 3 days of each search coming in, so that you will be able to complete that. It's not very hard, it's pretty quick content, and then you will be able to get all of those coins from them. Once you reach 30 sigils, you unlock dungeons and army slots. Dungeons upgrade the army slots of your leaders, and these are bonus levels for the minis of that leader's army. So you can get up to 4 levels actually per mini. So these are really super important. You need to reach dungeon level 22 to get the maximum bonus slots, and that happens with each leader separately. And there's a family rotation, so only leaders from a specific family can enter each week. So it will take you a few weeks to get all of your armies updated. Finally, dungeons are repeatable. Once you reach level 23, you can complete the dungeon with each leader once per week, and you will get more coins for that. So dungeons are a super important part of the content. At 40 sigils you unlock access to events, and that means that guilds also really want players who have 40 sigils or more, because some of the events are guild based and everyone in the guild earns and contributes to the guild chest, and then you will get rewards based on that. So events are really important. They're a significant source of coins, stars and XP, and you really want to unlock them, and you really want to join a guild where you can work on these together with the other players. At 50 sigils you unlock another great source of XP and coins, which is the heroic campaign. There's a regular campaign of 80 bosses, and then all of those bosses also have a heroic version. And when you start doing the heroic versions, the first clear of a heroic mission gives you an XP tome. And once you clear a heroic mission with 5 families, then you will get 200 coins, or 300 with the booster, and you will get a sigil. So this is the way that you progress the campaign after you have completed the normal campaign. You don't have to complete all of the normal campaign, you can also start doing some of the heroics. Heroics start at level 10. So if you get stuck in the regular campaign, you can do some of the easier heroics, get some rewards, and then progress again. Finally, at 90 sigils you unlock access to the co-op gameplay with sieges and raids, which are 2-player co-op battles with guild members. So you're playing at the same time with your guildmate against a difficult PvE boss. And these offer unique, powerful rewards, some super powered army slots, for example, so these are quite important as well, but they're more of an endgame content. Sieges are easier. You can start sieges around level 17, 16 minis or something like that, when you can actually complete a siege, whereas with raids you want to get to 20 and beyond in order to actually complete raids. Finally, a couple of gameplay tips. One crucial gameplay tip is that Rumble is largely a game about economy. Get more gold than your opponent. You can mine gold, and if you can prevent your opponent from mining gold, you will have more resources, and that means that you will have an easier time winning. Another thing is that all units have weaknesses, so find out what units counter which other units, and if the boss is using some unit that you find really difficult, add the counter to that to your army and then fight on. And that's basically how all the heroics work. When you can't just go in with a balanced army and beat everything anymore, then you just need to start to work on getting the right counters in. Also, you can build your pushes. You don't have to spend all of your gold at once. You don't have to spend all of your gold as soon as you get it. Sometimes you want to save and then spend more gold at once in order to build a group of units that's really powerful. And sometimes grouping up your units can be a bad idea if the opponent has a tool that can just destroy them. So depending on your opponent, you can trickle in or you can just try to build them more specific groups. And also, unbound units are super powerful because they can be deployed anywhere on the map. So you can use them to distract the enemies, and you can use them to take chests, for example, just gaining more resources for yourself. Because you can't control your units after you have placed them, Rumble is largely a game about timing and positioning. And there's also some nice tricks about this. For example, you can split push with a squad unit by placing them right on the deployment line, and then they will go their separate ways, so that we will actually have units going 2 different directions. You can also place units without scrolling to the deployment zone, because units will deploy at the closest legal position. So if your deployment zone is a little bit underneath, for example, you can just drop the unit and it will go to the deployment zone if there's no legal position that's closer to it. So think carefully about the positioning and timing of your units. Positioning them within the deployment zone in different places can also affect the route that they will take, and that's going to be something that's really important in determining who's going to be the winner. So good luck with Warcraft Rumble, and I hope you have fun.
Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and a special thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, YouTube members and Twitch subscribers who make all of these videos possible.